Hello, this is just a little bit further information building upon the video you should have just watched. Basically, what I have created here on this paper is what the man created in his last couple slides. So, first of all, in the introduction, and this is a really good way to learn how to write because it is standard, simple, easy. But an introduction, it's often good to start out with something that will get the person's attention. Because if you just immediately jump into what you're talking about, I don't know, it's just not considered good, although some professors may tell you not to do this. Anyway, you could start out with any kind of a quote or proverb. Like if your thesis statement was something to do with love, perhaps the quote would be, "Love is not love that alters when it alteration finds." That's Shakespeare. It's a fairly famous quote, and it would perhaps intrigue people. You could try some humor. It was overheard a couple saying to one another, "I will love you until I forget who you are." That might be some way to start it. An interesting fact. How about people who are deeply in love are able to hold their breath underwater for over 5 minutes. Okay, so I completely made that up, but you can understand why an interesting fact that is real, that's true, might actually get someone interested in reading it. And then you can just simply pique their curiosity by saying something like, "The answers to the age-old question of how to find your true love are in this paper." See, something like that will pique your curiosity. Again, the one thing you don't want to do with these things, which I learned these things as hooks, I've heard them called grabbers before, but the thing you don't want to do with any of them is be too corny. Most of what I just said was a little on the corny side. If you can't come up with something that hooks their attention, it's okay to not have that, but it's a really good idea to have it. Then, generally speaking, the reasons you found out, just as the man in the video talked about, he was talking about having 3 reasons that will support your thesis. You should have them ordered from strong to strongest, and you should write a sentence or 3 on each one of those that basically says, this is how I plan on using this reason to support my argument. This is why this particular reason works for the certain plays. Like if you're trying to say why one playwright is better than another, and you want to say it's because his plays or her plays have been more successful, you might want to say one of the ways in which plays are determined to be a playwright is determined to be better than another is how successful their plays are, and I will deem success based on financial success or longevity of a run on Broadway or something. But you should have basically 3 little sentences there, and then your thesis statement. Ideally 1 sentence, 2 sentences if you can't change it. In essence, you have really just briefly outlined what's coming next. The body of the paper, again, reason number 1 as the topic sentence, reason number 1 now becomes the topic sentence of paragraph number 1. And in paragraph number 1, you then have at least 3 supporting ideas for this. So, in other words, you have 3 facts, 3 pieces of research, 3 somethings from your research that support your reasoning here. And then there should be a little conclusion. It's like a mini or minor concluding sentence to this paragraph. Each one of these supporting ideas, since they come from your research, will clearly need to be cited from the sources you got them from. And then you do the same with your second, slightly stronger reason, and then you have your supporting ideas and a slight concluding sentence. Same thing with the third one, your strongest idea becomes, these are all new paragraphs. Supporting ideas, concluding sentence. If you are writing more, so you actually have 6 reasons, well then you have 6 paragraphs all set up in the basic same structure. And then your conclusion. Conclusion's a little harder to say because they generally say that your introduction drills down to an idea. So being the thesis, so it sort of gets more specific as it goes on. Some people say the conclusion should get less specific as it goes on. But generally you're saying, because of reason number 1 is true, and because I've shown that because this paper has shown that reason number 3 is true, and because 2 is true, and because reason number 3 is being fully supported, the thesis statement, usually restated in a slightly different way than it was up in the introduction, is true or fully supported. Some people would say you can switch these around and put this, the restated thesis statement at top is fully supported because of 1, 2, and 3. And then you should leave the reader with an interesting final impression. You should, considering the implications of your argument or analysis or discussion or whatever, what does your argument imply or involve or suggest? And this probably is better written that way. Whoops, how come? There we go. So, leaving the reader with an interesting final impression is good. So, considering the implication of your arguments or your analysis, your discussion, whatever, what does your argument imply or involve or suggest? There's maybe some further research could be done in this way or something else, but it's really good to leave them with a good lasting impression if you can. There you go. One thing, and I'm tacking this on because I forgot to say it the first time I recorded this, but one thing that the man in the video said that I don't support is that he talked a little bit like it was too heavy upon your opinion. In some papers, it is about your opinion. In a research paper, it's much more about your research. You shouldn't be saying I statements hardly ever in a research paper. You should be basing everything off facts.